Hello, my name is James Skeet from the Dene Nation, along with my beautiful wife, Pennsylvania Dutch descendant. She has brought so much wonderful energy into the context of her background, Mennonite and Amish. She's able to can and dehydrate things, and she's incorporated her perspective in a way to say the Mennonite cosmology. I don't know if there's such a thing as that. Eager to share our knowledge with you all in order to encourage growers to have the right heart when they help facilitate the growing within their own farm. We'll be focusing on the fourth stone now, honoring the microbes through regenerative remediation. We just appreciate the opportunity to share with you these 6 sacred stones that we have developed to guide us throughout the practices of farming and reconnecting with the earth, the soil, along with the sky. Those are really important things to keep in mind because the way the condition of our environment is today, it's become very, very harsh, even to our cells. A lot of our cells are rejecting the environment. This has been a kind of a slow process, but through looking at the ages and eons of not only indigenous perspective, but perspective as a whole of human beings on the earth, we realize that this is just a blink of an eye. In our introduction to these stones, we're really looking at not only the scientific perspective, the lenses through epistemology, the lenses through indigenous lenses that looks at the cosmology and looks at the relationship of the earth. But the one thing that's really missing in reductionist thinking in science is that relationship with a much larger, bigger picture of systemic systems that can either hurt us or really benefit us. But as indigenous people, we've honored things tying back to our ancient rhythms. We've looked through these lenses and seen all things having sacred attributes to not only its quality, but to its nature. My mother has always affirmed that rocks came before plants, and plants are considered ancient successions of life on into the 4-legged creatures. And our relationship to that is so key. But if we have to go back and really honor things, it is honoring the microbes. What are the microbes doing? How are the microbes laying down their lives so we can eat, all the 4-legged creatures can eat? Plants, in a way, she used to say, is they're reaching out to us because the microbes have created the medicinal ingredients within the plant itself. So in a way, the microbes are kind of our doctors, pharmaceutical doctors that give us the nutrients, the density of the trace minerals, all the things that are attributed to good health is in that relationship with the microbes. They call it the microbiome. Food is considered to indigenous people as medicine, and that connection must always be secured. We try very hard to honor these ancient rhythms, not just honor them, but we mimic the dynamics through ceremonies and through spiritual gestures, whether it be using plants as incense. It's really our prayers are going up in the burning of the sage, the burning of the cedar, the burning of the different plants that are medicinal, so that they're released. So it's our prayers that are going up into Father Sky. And in that relationship, creating that biotic pump on that relationship with the atmosphere, and always considering that there are a lot of living things that connect with not only the sky, but the earth. How to glean from nature was a delicate type of listening, an art that it takes one's entire life to master. In other words, how the Greek philosopher says we seize the day. No, to indigenous people, it's receiving the day, not seizing the day. Consequently, allowing time to roll on us rather than penetrating time. These are concepts from a cosmological perspective, indigenous science, so to speak, that looks at time. Are you at peace? Are you in a state of hojon? Are you in a state of understanding that relationship? And as time rolls on you, you're prepared to make any changes that you need to along the way, but you're constantly in shalom or keeping chaos in check or at peace. It is taking the energy you have and focusing on facilitation, not the creation of growing. And that's the difference between what we call farmers today in comparison to indigenous farmers. Indigenous farmers facilitated their energy in the right place at the right time and allowing nature, creator, to do the growing in the best context, in the best remediation. Our organization started in 2015 when we were introduced to life in the soil through a number of different soil scientists, one of them being Elaine Ingham, Peter McCabe. Since that time, we have established our own homegrown approach to growing we call Indigenous Regenerative Intelligence. This is not heard any other place but here because we look at the local aspect of our land, the local aspect of our plants, the locality of where we're at. If we're detached, we try to drill down so that we can work even within the microbes, the exudates and the roots, so that things can grow from this indigenous land. We have messed up the soil. We have messed up the topsoils, blown away, desertification that's taken place all across our reservations, the misuse of the plow, the deep plowing, corrupting the microbes, not honoring the microbes, but honoring fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, which is now killing us, destroying our cells, creating the cancerous radicals to stimulate in our bodies, and our own cells become toxic. The intelligence is really how do we go back and find a rhythm, the indigenous rhythm, the Native American rhythm, which is so needed today. The intelligence that's there, the information that's there that has not been used because we've been speaking of it. We've been repressed. We have been pushed out to the margins. Now we want to speak out in this intelligence, realizing that we have been able to sustain a lot of living things. We've been able to work within the systemic context of a secular view, a worldview that is so beneficial to a biological perspective, not a chemical perspective, which is a part of the industrial systems. Spirit Farm is a demonstration farm that uses only natural practices, including microbial composting. The soil is the key. If we can begin from that position, it's a position of humility. It's not a position of dominating and controlling or destroying things to be able to grow things. We want to heal the high desert southwestern soil. This is a very difficult area because of the nature of the water. We get about 8 to 10 inches of water a year. Yeah. And I know there are places that they're doing with less, but they're able to grow things because they're focusing on the soil, not only the soil, but the mycorrhizae. They're using nature to their benefit rather than trying to destroy nature. We want to be a living example. Just recently, I heard Elaine Ingham, which is kind of our hero. You know, she's elbowed a lot of people along the way, but I really appreciate what she said. What would you do if you were to access a lot of money, resources? And she said, I would do demonstration farms so that people can see the possibilities. They can research what's going on within their soil. They can be able to grow high density crops. Just recently, we pulled out some carrots from our garden. I'm telling you, it was so sweet. The soil was so luscious. So I ate some carrots, and then we had to travel to Albuquerque, which is the nearest city to us. When we traveled over there, I had some carrots from one of the grocery stores, and I did not think it was as good as ours. So we want to reclaim traditional farming and spiritual practice. The farm provides a visual model. It's a place where we can dialogue and discuss opportunities with growers of methods. How can we increase the quantity and quality of their produce, as well as use less water, which is a critical step when growing foods in our climate. We want to reattach and reconnect with the soil, but we must first learn to honor the soil and the microbes. In so doing, we have to listen with a different pair of ears, and it's really listening from our heart.
Honoring is so key in all relationships. And one way to honor relationships is taking time for ceremonies. And ceremonies don't have to be this big, specific way you approach things. It's something that happens organically, naturally in your own way. It can be a specific ceremony, but it can be prayers. Maybe it's just taking time and sitting among your plants, sitting on the soil, whatever comes natural to you. It's about taking time to celebrate and to reflect on what is taking place, what has happened, the goodness, and what the microbes, plants have done for us. But in order to honor the microbes, we must first get to know them and how they function, which is something we really discussed in quite detail in the last session, number 3. The role of the microbes in nature and all of life is vital. and not just important, but it's required. And we say required because without the microbes, there would be no life on Earth. They are the smallest life forms, so small that many of them, we can only see them at 100 times our naked eyesight, up to 400, 500, 600. And yet these tiny life forms are the most important. In the soil, the microbe and plant roots work together. If there are no plant roots, then the microbes are unable to get all the foods and nutrients they need to survive and thrive. And one of the key things to this is keeping living roots in the soil at all times, even through the winter. I'm going to say that again. It's keeping living roots in the soil at all times. And if there's no microbes, then the plants are not able to provide the nutrients to support a healthy living ecosystem. In today's world, many of our plants do not produce healthy foods because of the fertilizers which have killed the microbes. And in fact, now the plants that are grown with fertilizers produce foods laced with fertilizers. And in addition, all the nutrients are depleted that are needed in order to support a healthy life.
And that's what I think medicine is just now beginning to trip over, is what's happening in the microbiome in our gut. Now, you're looking at how we're supposed to sterilize everything. Man, human beings, all living things cannot live in a sterile environment. I really think that we have created conditions where we've created viruses that are leaping and jumping into human beings from the way we've kept animals. So this fear goes back of nurturing perspective, is vivid among European history. It started with a guy by the name of Francis Bacon, who instituted the whole idea to go after things that were effeminate, things that were female type, female herbalists. And so it began this whole process of fearing things that were natural. And so what instituted into a Descartes philosophy of I think, therefore I am, it really began the kind of rollout, the wave of industrial revolution, which later was promoted by many different other philosophers that emulated the mechanical mindset. And this mechanical mindset is really coming to an end because we have been very destructive. We have been very extractive. Everywhere we've gone in terms of modern human beings, we have destroyed the lands. We have removed indigenous plants, indigenous things, indigenous animals, indigenous people, so that things can be extracted, so that it can be moved back into European systems where there's stakeholders that hold on, banks that hold on. The story between Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and Custer is all about that collision between a horse nation, a bartering system economy versus that of a currency-based economy, trying to extract gold for the coffers in Europe, the banking system, the Federal Reserve, to begin to put interests on printing more money. All these things are concepts. And then, of course, the banking system, how it was manipulated. For now, we are so dependent on currency-based economy. And this currency-based economy continues to exploit many of the different indigenous areas. The fear of that nurturing, that female perspective, that Mother Earth is still very much intact by a patriarchal white man system. And indigenous people have been watching this show all in front of them thinking, when are they going to get it? When are they going to get a clue that the fear of the female archetype within this world shouldn't be feared, but it should be brought into the concept of nurturing, of rebuilding, regenerating the soils, regenerating the earth, regenerating our economy.
I like it that we don't understand all the worlds of microbes. I know the culture that I come from, the white culture I come from, they want to try to understand everything. And science creates that venue for that, to try to figure things out. But when we allow things and just accept things, that really helps us to get a fuller understanding that the interconnectedness of things on Earth. There are various roles of microbes on Earth. We see them as superheroes, and there is so much we don't even know about them and what they are capable of. In a way, they're always performing some kind of magic all around us and in us. For one, they keep our bodies healthy and balanced, and all our organ systems with the nutrients that they supply in all our foods. And so now imagine now that our foods don't have the nutrients, and we can see how our bodies are responding negatively. They keep our guts and digestive systems balanced. Many of the leaky gut syndromes are due to the lack of nutrients in our foods. We depend on the microbes in the septic systems, and yet we fully do not understand their role, or we will not even be using Clorox and antibacterial cleansers, which actually kill them. If we would allow them to do their job, they will do a much better job than we as human beings even do. They clean up toxic waste all over. They even can clean up uranium spills in 6 to 12 months. There are scientists that are still struggling to do this, and that takes decades for them to figure that out. When we really look at the intensity of what the microbes can really do, we have only begun to scratch the surface.
I know that we talk about a lot of different things that might be new to people. It's really a heart message. It's the intelligence of people that have been moved to the margins, whether it be intelligence from a feminist standpoint or, in this day and age with the Black community, there's some intelligence that's there that needs to be heard. And that's the whole pressure that's taking place. We're moving the pendulum back from a mechanical, industrial mindset, a patriarchal system, into more of a maternal, matriarchal understanding of how the cosmology and the relationship. I think those are things that are positive. So as we look at things from that perspective, as we engage in these discussions, we are very much not just talking theoretically. We are applying these things to our farm, the way we raise our animals, what we feed our animals, how we have that relationship with the microbiome in the soil, how we eat a lot of our own food so that we can have that biology that's in the soil in our stomach. And that understanding of that relationship, what we see is Indigenous people naturally adapted to that because of their epistemological lens. They were looking through a lens that could receive and understand this. They could put themselves in a position of Hojo, peace, so that they can really begin to listen. How can you listen to anybody if you're penetrating time? You can't. So we have 6 sacred stones that we're looking at. Water, number 1, water is sacred, Father Sky. Number 2, holding soil sacred, the relationship of Mother Earth, the importance of that female nurturing perspective, and the reconnection with the microbes, the kinship, how when we begin to reconnect with the microbes, we establish a whole new venue of language and perspectives, and then honoring the microbes. It's looking through lenses that have a different perspective and honoring microbes so that we know that they're laying down their lives for us and they're putting down special ingredients that become medicine. Food is medicine. And then the next one we're going to be talking about is the polyculture, the maximized diversity. The marginal people know how to stretch the dollars. They've endured injuries to them, so they know how to work around these systems that have been established by a currency-based mechanical industrial system that is now really on the chopping block because of the nature of our governance, leadership, all that thing. So we are looking at how do we become more attuned to how to transform the systemic system that's there so that we can have a more healthier systemic perspective on a biological system rather than a chemical system. But I really appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much. And if you are interested, you can look on our website, covenantpathways.org. Thank you very much.